My positive attitude just went out the window. I wouldn't speak to anybody, I wouldn't go out of the house, I didn't want to speak to my parents. Every slightest thing that goes wrong then is another massive negative. My name's Andrew Oliver. I'm 57 years old. I'm married with 4 children and I live on Western Slade Farm, which is in Oxwich on the Gower. As a child, I was the happiest person you could imagine. I left school and I worked on the farm for 6 years before I went to St Albans to study horticulture. I was always happy. Farming was my love. I used to come home from school, get changed, go out on the farm. Never interested in any sport, anything like that. As I got older, I felt not so content, not so happy, more worried, more anxious about the future. When I went to St Albans, my father didn't want me to go. He didn't believe it was the right thing to do. So I drove to St Albans to Oaklands College in Hertfordshire, and I never phoned or contacted them for about 6 months, which, looking back, was quite a cruel thing to do. Even though I was an adult, they didn't have a clue where I was, how I was getting on. But well, I didn't. Now, whether that's the beginning of my feeling depressed or feeling uncertain, I'm not sure. I came back to the Gower then in 1990 and I managed Gower Growers Wales Limited, which was a cooperative of 30-odd farmers. I did that for 3 years. Then I went and joined the Ministry of Agriculture as a fruit and vegetable inspector in London, and things seemed to be going okay. On the death of my uncle, I came back to the farm and I had plans. I'd rented some land neighbouring. I was going to borrow my brother's machinery and farm about 100 acres neighbouring, and he was going to borrow my labour because he was still growing cauliflowers and potatoes and what have you. But within 6 months of me coming home, my brother had cancer of the esophagus, which didn't kill him actually, but he died of a thing called adult respiratory distress syndrome after his operation. Now that was a particularly difficult time for me and my family, my father more so than me. My father wouldn't leave the house, he wouldn't go outside, he couldn't look at anything my brother had done. And I really feel that I supported my father in so much that I didn't have time to grieve, and it was suggested by doctors that that could have been pushed me just over the edge with depression. But I wasn't aware of that then, I was just quite unhappy. I had a relationship breakdown in 2003. I then lived on my own for 3 years, and that's when I think everything caught up with me. The death of my brother, my parents were getting older, getting ill. My ex-girlfriend had gone with my young baby, who was only about a month old when he left. And I seriously think it started going wrong then. But I kept going, I carried on farming, things were getting more difficult. Price of fertilizer were expensive, livestock at that time was difficult to sell, low prices. Our landlady passed away. We'd been left in her will an allowance to buy the farm at probate value, which we couldn't afford to do, but we couldn't afford not to, so I had a massive loan with the bank. In the meantime, I married Emma. We had 1 child, and then all of a sudden I just didn't want to live. I firmly believe, looking back, that we're all, and that's, I mean everybody, I don't care who you are, we're on a knife edge. And you either fall off that knife and you go and do this stupid thing and end your life or something drastic, or you fall off the other way, you seek some help and you persevere and you get to where I am today. I ended up speaking to a friend of mine who was a manic depressive, and she was on lithium. And after the doctors trying all sorts of drugs, some made me slightly better, some made me worse, but that settled me down and calmed me. And we're talking now 15 years I've been on it. I think if I came off it tomorrow, I think I'd have this back to where I was. I remember the doctor saying to me that 1 in 4 people suffers from depression. I went around my village and I thought, no, she doesn't suffer from it. He doesn't suffer from it. But you could be so wrong. Like, nobody would believe I'm on medication. And at the time I went on it, and when I was extremely ill, I wouldn't speak to anybody, and I was ashamed that I was on it. But now I don't care less. And if I can get somebody to have a better outlook on life, I'd be chuffed to bits. I did go on a few courses of cognitive behaviour therapy, so it taught me to always look at something and think, yes, okay, something's gone wrong, but something else has gone right, everything else is going okay, and you work your way through it. I'm very self-motivated and very positive attitude now, but when I was in the worst of it, my positive attitude just went out the window. And you have to learn this cognitive behaviour. When I was doing the course, I thought, this is a waste of time, but it's not. And you learn to pick out the positives and try and push away the negatives so that you keep yourself just slightly up above a line. The most important thing is talking to somebody and let somebody help you, because I wouldn't even do that either. Let them talk to you. Talk to somebody, let them try and help you, let them support you. It's all about support and talking and help.